In today's videos, should you be doing flexible dieting or macro tracking, or should you be following a meal plan? Hey guys, this is Paul Ravella from physique.com, and today we're going to talk about meal planning to reach your fat loss, your fitness, your muscle building goals. We're also going to talk about flexible dieting and how it can apply to reaching your goals. Now, today's question and all the questions that I'm going to do this week come from our private Facebook group for our 90-day transformation challenge. It's already kicked off, but we will be doing another one in the beginning of the new year. So for this challenge, I wanted to help out everyone that's taking part in the 90 days. And I got a great question. I got a bunch of great questions. So I'm probably going to do a video every day this week. So let me read you the question and then we're going to get right into it. So the question goes like this. What's the verdict on flexible dieting versus strict clean eating? Are you missing out on net getting as lean if you were just hitting your macros perfectly, but all the foods are what people would not typically consider clean? So yeah, this is a great question, and I'll give you a little bit of history. When I first got into the sport of bodybuilding, I came in through a world where flexible dieting was becoming in vogue. My first coach was a guy named Lane Norton. His first coach actually invented flexible dieting. He coined the term flexible dieting. He came up with the phrase flexibility because he didn't want to eat the food that was on his meal plan. And he had the understanding of nutrition to say, hey, if I don't like my broccoli, I can swap it out for peas. His words exactly. I have a video on this channel where I interviewed Dr. Joe Klemczewski. So the idea of flexible dieting started as a simple one. You swap out foods that you don't necessarily enjoy, but are nutritionally equivalent to the foods on your plan. Well, why? Well, because some of us just don't like broccoli. Some of us just don't like fish. And yet there are these associations with these foods that somehow they are better. That is false. Yes, there is value in eating what most people would typically consider cleaner foods. Now, if we're talking about cleaner foods, I typically consider that foods that are kind of high volume. They're usually single ingredient, single macro ingredient foods, like something that has a lot of protein or a lot of carbs or a lot of fats. Usually if they have multiple macronutrient groups, they're not considered as clean. Volume, because it helps you keep full. Oftentimes fiber, often micronutrient dense foods, right? And they're foods that allow you to eat and stay to your plan. However, when you have a meal plan, there are some setbacks. And when you have flexibility, there are some positives and negatives as well. So I want to talk to you about my current philosophies and how I got here. So let's talk about what a meal plan does. Let's say someone gives you a meal plan today. That's easy. You look at the meal plan, you go to the grocery store, you buy the food, you prep the food, you put it in the fridge, done. You don't have to think. So there is some ease of access to this. Anybody can start a meal plan tomorrow. You can type in meal plan on the Google machine and you can get a meal plan. You don't have to think. And for some people, they're busy, they're active, they have a lot going on. They just want to be told what to do and understand it and not have to worry about learning and just move on. And I totally understand that. So with the meal plan, what you'll actually find typically is that initially stress is lower. Why? Because you have a set plan. You know what you're going to eat. It takes that off of your thinking throughout the day. And oftentimes we get decision-making fatigue, you know, as a parent, as a business owner, as a competitor, as a coach. Like, I have a lot of decisions I have to make throughout the day. So sometimes it's tough to make the decision. How many of us have gotten in an argument? What do you want to eat? What are you going to eat? No, I don't want to eat that. Yes, I want that. So taking that off your plate initially with a meal plan can lower stress. We can learn from that. However, when it comes to education, if I provide you with a meal plan and say, eat these foods, and you start making progress and you feel good, all you know is that the meal plan is working. You don't know why, okay? And sometimes I've had people inquire to coach with us. I've gotten their meal plan. I've put it in to track it to see how much calories, how much protein, carbs, and fats. And I found out that the numbers were so far off that it was a bad representation of a meal plan for that specific person. So oftentimes meal plans become what are known as cookie cutter, meaning a coach will have so many clients, they simply give the same meal plan to everybody. And through the process of elimination, some people are going to succeed, some people aren't, but there's no skill involved there, right? So there's not a lot of education. You're not actually understanding, okay, why am I eating this much protein? Why am I eating this much carbs, fats, protein, alcohol? Why is my body doing what it's doing? This is a part of the process that I think is beneficial and that is lacking with a meal plan. Also, a meal plan. And this is probably the biggest struggle I've seen as a coach. And this is why I think flexible dieting became very in vogue with competitors years ago, and still to this day is my preferred method of coaching everyone. But I'll explain how that variable has changed, and that is it's very binary. You're either on your plan or you're off. So for example, you have your meal plan, you have your meals planned, you're hitting your 5 meals a day, you're hitting your meals every 3-4 hours, you're following the plan as it's written. However, your kid leaves a cookie on the counter. You take a bite of that cookie. The thinking is, I'm off my meal plan. Screw it. I'm just gonna go eat a whole bunch of cookies, I'm gonna eat a whole bunch of junk because tomorrow I'm going back on the plan. There is no ability to be flexible. You are either on your plan or you're off. And this is the psychology around the people that I talk to oftentimes, because I struggle to understand that thinking. Because when I came into this sport, and I've always been someone that just ate whatever I wanted, I've tried to understand nutrition on a higher level. I never had the binary thinking. I was never given a meal plan and said, this is your plan, you're either good or you're bad. That's the binary issue that I have with a meal plan. However, there are some positives to meal plans, which we'll get into. Now, flexibility. This idea of tracking macros, it does have some flaws. And although the first time I was given a set of macros by my coach, Lane, which were designed based on my goals, my needs, my body weight, all those things, they were very specific to me, it was very overwhelming. And so that's the part that I want to talk about, was this effort. Initially, the effort into learning flexible dieting or macro tracking is higher than meal planning, and the entry level is usually the problem. Most people want to be told what to do, they don't care. However, if you don't have a coach that knows what he's doing, you might be getting a less than ideal plan. Also, although the effort is higher at the beginning, and oftentimes it can take 3, 4, 5 days, even a week to really start to hone in on hitting your macros, that's education. And remember what I said, the education is low with a meal plan. So that initial part of learning how to track your macros, learning how to look at food labels, learning how to use an app like Fat Secret, although that requires a little bit of effort at the beginning, we're going to talk about why that can be important. Also, you're accountable. When someone gives you a meal plan, there's no accountability there. You're not accountable. You're just being told what to do. You're either following the plan or you're not. With this, there's some accountability, and this is what I like, and this is why I like my clients to use a flexible dieting approach with meal planning, which we'll get into. But the idea of accountability is tough for some people, okay? It makes you take inventory of actually doing what you say you're going to do. And for a lot of people, they struggle with that. Now, this is what the Transformation Challenge is for. This is why I like contest prep. This is why I like people that set goals with a deadline, because that is when you're going to reach them. You're going to be accountable. Whether it's nutrition and training goals, whether it's financial goals, you have to have some accountability. But that can be tough for some people when it comes to flexible dieting. They're not ready to be accountable. And so oftentimes when I say, someone says, oh, I really want to work with you, and I say, hey, I want you to track your diet for 3 days, and I never hear from them again, I know they weren't actually ready to be accountable, and I didn't waste my time talking to them. The real issue is the overwhelming nature of being told, hey, you can eat whatever you want, just hit your macros. It's like, whoa, that's crazy. It took me a solid week. Now, the reason I overcame that initial difficulty was because I was very stubborn. I saw that there were some competitors that looked a certain way, and I said, well, if they're gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. I literally went to the grocery store with my phone, with an app, and started looking at food labels. And I had to learn, okay, why when I track my food am I eating 80 grams of fat when I only need 50? Well, it turns out the ground beef that I was eating was high in fat. Oh, so if I buy the lean ground beef, you mean I can actually hit my numbers. Boom, education. Although it's overwhelming at first to be accountable, that initial kind of shock factor taught me that, yeah, I can pretty much eat whatever I want as long as I learn to track it. That turned something into binary, good, bad, into flexibility, meaning I can either eat a little bit more now and a little bit less later, or a little bit more today and a little bit less tomorrow. So there was some value there for me, a lot of value. It made it feel like there are no bad foods. So there was no restriction. I didn't crave anything because I could have whatever I want. Therefore, food became a method for me to reach my goals versus an obstacle of things I had to avoid. Flexible dieting is adaptable. So flexible dieting doesn't just mean I'm swapping my broccoli for peas. It doesn't just mean I'm swapping my my meat, if I'm vegan, for vegan protein sources. It doesn't just mean that. It means you can be flexible from how many meals you hit a day, right? So if I have a 200 protein, 300 carb, 50 fat goal, I can do that in 2 meals, 3 meals, 4 meals. That's flexibility. I can save up, okay? I call that banking calories. I can save calories if I want to go on a date, if I want to go out with my wife, if I want to go do something social, if I don't know what my plans are. There is adaptability there. With the binary plan, when you're given a meal plan and someone says, hey, do you want to go out to dinner with me? Your initial response is going to be, hell no. I'm not bringing my Tupperware to a restaurant and sitting there. However, if I want to go out, what do? I simply go to the website of the restaurant, if I'm not familiar with it, and look something up. Or over time, I've been doing this for more than a decade now, you just learn the foods that are easy to track. I don't even have to track and weigh things. I can eyeball things if I'm really being particular, okay? And it's sustainable. Meal plans are not sustainable. There is no such thing as one meal plan that I'm going to give you that you're going to be able to do forever. It's going to create cravings, you're going to miss things, you're going to wish you had things. So while there are positives of both of these, I want to give you guys the approach that I feel is best. Now, there is one trait among successful dieters, and the research shows this, but there's one trait that the most successful dieters have that allows them to lose weight and keep it off. What is that? Meal planning. That's right, they plan their meals in advance. What I think initially happened with flexible dieting is people went too overboard with it. Instead of just saying, hey, I'm gonna have peas instead of broccoli, they went, screw it, I'm just gonna have whey protein, ice cream, and candy and hit my daily macronutrient goals. Well, you're missing out on volume, you're missing out on fiber, and you're missing out on the point. The point here is not to avoid eating good, wholesome, whole, healthy foods. The goal is to find sustainability in foods that you enjoy. Does that mean sometimes including something that might not be particularly considered clean? Absolutely. Why? It's not a binary thought. You don't have to go off your plan if you eat a cookie. You just gotta plug it in and say, well, there goes some of my fats and carbs for later in the day. And what happens? You start to value the foods that make you feel good, that make you look good, and that help you work towards your goals, versus thinking foods are good or bad. There are no good or bad foods, guys. They're all just food. They are calories for our body. They might work better for some people during certain periods of time for their goals, but I can make a point that all foods are good, okay? Unless you have literally a health issue with something. Now, the sustainable nature of flexible dieting can also make it difficult for people to get into a rhythm with it because they just get in the habit of just kind of willy-nilly tracking throughout the day. So what I have found with my clients is that they create a meal plan. That's right. Through flexible dieting, they are able to start repeating meals. They go, man, I really like shrimp. I really like rice. I really like bagels. They start including these things. And what you do as you start to narrow your focus and you start to lose weight is you start repeating your meals. So you might eat the same breakfast every day, the same lunch every day, and then you might have a little flexibility with your dinner. Well, guess what you just did? You planned your meals. So the most successful trait is to have some foods. And I find that if you cook some foods in bulk, put them in the fridge, and then you go downstairs to grab a meal or you bring your meal to lunch, that takes away the stress. So now you get the perks of a meal plan with the flexibility of flexible dieting. So don't think that these two things are mutually exclusive. You can do them both. You can be a flexible dieter who puts together a meal plan. Without having to be told exactly what your meal plan is, you can create a meal plan using foods you enjoy that fit your daily goals. And hey, don't try to be perfect right away. I'll be honest, your bodies are going to burn different calories at different rates. Food labels, they're just estimates. There's a wide range. If something says it has 100 calories, it can be higher or lower. Okay, so there is no perfecting this. What we're trying to do is eliminate as many variables as possible by planning ahead and avoiding going off our plans by learning a sustainable, flexible approach. So hopefully that helps you guys. Hopefully it wasn't too long-winded. And I hope you guys are having a great transformation challenge and a great Tuesday, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.